welcome to another discussion on street sociology. Today's topic is going to be foreign aid. Now, this is a topic on which there's a great deal of confusion, and the reason for that is there's supposed to be. There's a lot of misinformation put out there by governments, in populist sense at least, to try and convince people that foreign aid is a bad idea or is somehow a negative for your country and should be discontinued. I'm going to discuss some examples of that, using Australia as the key case study here. Now, to begin, an organisation called the Lowy Institute, which is a private think tank in Australia, did a study in 2018 regarding perceptions of foreign aid. Okay, now in Australia, what they found was the average Australian citizen thinks we spend 14% of our entire federal budget on foreign aid. Okay, and the average Australian thinks that we should lower our foreign aid down to 10% of our entire budget. Seriously, people actually believe that we spend nearly 15% of our whole budget on foreign aid. We actually spend 0.8% of our budget every year, and the average Australian thinks we should lower it to 10% because they're so convinced it's been inflated. Very simply, and this happens in your country too, not just mine, politicians find this very easy to sell. We've got whatever problems we have at home in our country, so why are we giving aid to other countries instead of spending it at home? It's a fair question, you know, in the way things are put across today. I can understand why there's confusion. The answer is quite simple. Why are we giving away money to foreign countries? It's because it actually makes us more money. That's for starters. Far more importantly, the key principle that underlines foreign aid is national security. Let me expand on that. Pardon me. Basically, let's take Australia as an example. Now, in our small corner of the world, surrounded by Near East Asian countries, we are the superpower of this very small corner of the world. We have a GDP per year of $1.9 trillion, and a population of about 26 million. That makes us by far one of the richest countries on earth. Now, no neighbouring country surrounding Australia, other than New Zealand, finds itself in such a fortunate and lucky position. Therefore, we have not just, you might say there's some form of moral or social obligation to try and help out those around us. I'd like to believe that that's part of it. Politicians don't give a toss about that, and statistically, neither do you. You really don't, and that's okay. The thing is that the key thing here is national security, okay? So let's say regional stability. Let's look at Australia, right? Australia, country right above us, Indonesia. This is like, I think there's 290 million people in Indonesia and 26 million in Australia. So you can see there's a pretty big discrepancy there. Now, it is very much in Australia's national interest to provide foreign aid to our surrounding countries, including Indonesia, in order to guarantee regional stability. And again, this just sounds like big words that we shouldn't care about, but the primary role of a nation state is to protect its people, okay? So that's why we have a military, why we're so worried about national defense and national security. Gotta love those words. You can use them for any damn thing you don't really want to be talked about in public. But in this example, it's the key thing here. Let's look at the situation of the East Timorese independence vote. Now, Australia led the United Nations delegation on peacekeeping for that, and the reason we led that is because it was in our national interest to do so. If Indonesia were ever to become politically or socially highly unstable, that would be a grave and you know, a peril to Australia's security. By ensuring we have regional security, countries have enough money to be able to, you know, feed their people or maintain the functioning of government in our region, and you know, obviously international development, bringing people out of extreme poverty. You know, this all helps Australia, and you can apply this to your country if it's not Australia, because if you're a first world country, your country does the same thing with regional countries. You're buying security, you're buying trade deals, you're buying goodwill. Goodwill. Let's look into that. Goodwill. Actually, no, first, you know what? The trade. Let's say our expenditure per year out of our $500 billion budget, what the federal budget is, $500 billion a year, is $3.8 billion a year in total to all countries, including Indonesia. Our trade with Indonesia alone is worth $16.8 billion a year. If we were to desist from providing a foreign aid package whatsoever, as some call for, what would Indonesia's reaction to that be? They would see it as a betrayal. They would more than likely put an end to our trade deals with them. They would operate... If we were to stop foreign aid, these countries, Indonesia included, would absolutely go somewhere else for that aid, okay? Because nature abhors a vacuum. And with this money, we're buying, like I said, stability and goodwill. So let me put to you a hypothetical. Let's say hypothetically we do what some say we should do and cut foreign aid tomorrow. None, no more. Okay. So we've just burned relations, hypothetically, with Indonesia. Trade, military relationship, it's of course our most important regional military partner, that would cease to be. Nature abhors a vacuum, so you would find that very quickly Indonesia would look for other countries to fill the financial and sort of bilateral trade gap that we've left. Okay, the country that would fill that instantly would be China. It's part of their expansionist model at the moment. You'll find that their model around the world, especially the Asian region at the moment, with less developed countries, is often to go in, extend to these countries lines of credit that are so ridiculous they could almost never be paid back, and simply say, well, how about you've got all this money, why don't you let us set up a little air base here, or a military base or something. That is entirely logical. I'll probably do the same thing. But that's not the point. The point is it happens. Now, if we were to leave, no more foreign aid, no more relationship with Indonesia, they wouldn't see the funny side. China steps in. How would that look for us? Now, militarily, Australia's primary region of concern is our northern approaches, okay? So Indonesia through Malaya, those kind of things, as we did see in World War II. The only way that there could ever be a physical attack upon Australia by a large force is through our northern approaches. So to save $3.8 billion a year, some think that we should destroy our relationships with our partners in our northern approaches, thereby giving those relationships pretty much to China and opening up our entirety of our northern approaches to a country that probably doesn't have our best interests at heart, and only allowing them to do so because we gave up all of our decades-long relationships with these countries to save $3.8 billion a year. Our military budget is $22 billion a year. So can we see here that there's an interplay? I'll make it even simpler. A smile is cheaper than a bullet. It pays for us to have friends in our region. It pays for us to be good citizens, a good country of the region. It pays for us to invest in goodwill and trade in our region. For if we were to turn our backs upon our nearest partners, the only loser, and there would only be one, would be Australia. And this applies to your country too. Street sociology.